So welcome to UCCX Helpdesk Scripting, folks. My name is Benjamin Nguyen. I will be conducting this kind of, I guess, tech talk session, right? The introduction here will be, I'm going to lead you guys through Script Editor. I have a virtual machine that's kind of set up on the back end here, and I'll be able to kind of bring you guys through what it takes to kind of build a very basic help desk script, right? Where maybe a caller dials in, we collect some information like why they're calling with like a menu item. We'll collect their caller ID. We'll play some prompts, right? So that they'll be able to hear stuff. And so I want to show you guys what the prompt directory looks like so that you guys can go in and change your own prompts if you guys want to do that. We'll make some decisions and ultimately we'll route the call to some kind of an agent and or be queued up, right? So very basic stuff here. This is kind of what I want you guys to get used to. And so this will probably be like the last time you guys see this, but I want you guys to be able to see kind of like my call flow. And so people are going to be able to dial into my contact center here using some kind of a number. I'll show you where that number comes from. But as I dial in, notice one of the things that I want to do first is I want to start getting some information from the caller, right? So maybe I get the calling number, maybe I get the call-in number. So I figure out why it is that you're making the phone call into the contact center in the first place, okay? Then I want to put some kind of a play prompt here so that I can play you a welcome message. Hey, welcome to, my contact center. And then after that, I probably will have some other kind of menu item that will ask you for some type of a problem, right? So please tell me what type of problem you have. Is it hardware, software, telecom, or network? Press 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? And then we'll build in some decision making within our script as well, like how I'm able to loop things back over, and we'll make some looping decisions. Okay, if you guys can't make a correct, button press here. Say someone presses number 5 and there's nothing 5 here. Yeah, I want 5 to go back to playing the main menu. So you can select 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. Once we select why we have a particular problem in this help desk script, I guess the next thing that we're going to do is try to route this call to an agent, right? So if I try to route the call to an agent and the agent becomes available, sure, ring the agent. But if the agent is not available, so nobody's available, either they're not ready, right? Or nobody's logged in, or whatever the case may be, right? Agent's just not available inside of our environment, then yes, I want to queue this call. And then I guess we'll be able to build some kind of a queue loop, right? So that you guys will be able to see how I receive music on hold or how I configure all of that stuff. So. And that's probably going to be what we're going to go through for our help desk script. Any questions before I kind of lead you guys through this live demo? All righty. Well, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build a blank script here. And, at some point in time, I'll build this script for you guys so that you guys can have all the variables and you guys can see that will have created all of these script steps, by hand. And if you guys want me to kind of email you these scripts at the very end of the session, link to me your emails, just type UCCX and then put in your email in there, and then I'll be able to send these scripts to you guys. Okay, so anyway, as you start up Script Editor, I guess one of the things that I like to do is I kind of like to modify how big some of these script steps are. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is start to build my script in a way that makes sense, right? So one of the things that I probably will first have to do is if you guys go over here to, hold on, I'm getting a chat here. Okay, yeah, go ahead, guys. Sorry. So I have a start and I have an end. What these two things basically mean whenever you hit Script Editor is that start is basically going to start script processing, and then whenever you hit end, that is the end of script processing. Typically speaking, these are the beginning and the end of your script. So what I probably want to do is I just, out of habit, I like to put a annotation here. This would be my basic help desk script. And it's just a descriptor. If anything else, I can kind of put my name and why I modified the script. I can date it, right? Most people will like to date, and if they had to modify something within the script, they'll kind of put some documentation here so that the next person that logs into the script, they'll be able to know exactly what you did or what the most revision of these changes are going to be. But I'm just going to label it as basic help desk script, okay? The other thing that you guys will probably want to do is, if you want this script to initiate based on a call, you will probably want to take this basic call right here within the contact menu, and you want to set it here. The accept step, if you take a look at it, it's accepting a triggering contact. A triggering contact in UCCX means that when somebody dials into your application, they are triggering that application based on a phone call. So this triggering contact just means, hey, I'm going to keep on processing the script if somebody called in. So this is a very basic thing that most people do. You need to have an accept step, and you must probably have a terminate step at the very end. So typically the way that I'm going to apply it is I'm going to put it directly on top of where I want this thing to be on. So if I want this to be, you know, over the end, I'm going to drop it on top of the accept step, because it always moves it underneath the step that you drop it at. So if I drop this terminate step at the end, that doesn't work. But if I take that terminate step and I drop it at the accept step, that works out just fine. I will terminate the call here, and then I will end script processing. And that's kind of what I want to do first and foremost, okay? The next thing that I want to do, if we take a look at my thing here, right? I've accepted the inbound call. Now I want to get the calling number. So in order for me to get the calling number, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to go in under the call contact. Okay, now under the call contact, I want to be able to drag the get call contact info step. Okay, and I want to put it underneath the accept step. After the system has answered the phone call, what I want to do here is I want to take a look at this, and maybe I want to set the calling number. But here's the thing. Notice how there's a drop down here for your variables. The idea here is Cisco kind of takes you 90% of the way through this stuff. You just need to create your individual variables for the last 10% of the stuff that you need to do. So you'll notice here the calling number, I don't have the calling number yet. So there's nothing defined inside of my user-defined variable. So here's what I like to do. I'm going to create these variables as I go so that you guys can see me create this in order. I wouldn't necessarily do this in the real world, but I just want to show you guys this is what would happen if you guys would have to create this stuff, you know, when we think things through, right? And we logically create them. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a certain type of variable, a string type variable, okay? And I want to name this the calling number, okay? If you guys hear a lot of banging, that's construction, I apologize. But yeah, calling number. Now notice the way that I'm going to name these variables, and I want you guys to be aware of this. There's a lot of different names here in UCCX. You can see that I have get session info, I got accept step, reject step, I got tons of stuff. And you know, in addition to that, if you double click on this stuff, notice you also have names of things that are a calling number that's all capitalized in the very beginning. Anytime you have to define anything that's user defined, like when you're creating a new variable, we like to use this idea that you're going to be using camel case lettering. So instead of capitalizing the first letter, I don't capitalize the first letter, but then other words after that, I will capitalize the first letter. This is known as camel casing, right? So you have an uppercase in the middle of all this stuff that you're creating. This tells me that you guys are defining this as a user. It's user defined. It's not something that the system is asking for, okay? Now, most people are asking, well, Ben, why do you do stuff like that? Like, you know, like that just seems like unnecessary thing. Well, we do this because when you start debugging your script, which you will have to do, you will have to debug your script to figure out how it works. When you debug the script, it's very easy to find out if it's a user problem, if it's something that you kind of need to define, or whether or not it's like a system-based problem, right? So I like to do this just because it helps me define whether it's a user-based thing that I defined or whether it's a system-based thing. And that's just for debugging purposes, okay? Now that I've put this variable inside of my script, notice the other thing that I can do here is if I want to get your caller ID, I can say, well, the calling number, what I want to do is I want to map that to that variable now. You see how it's selectable within the dropdown? So select it and then press OK. Now, if you only want to get the calling number, that's up to you. If you want to get the call-id number too, be my guest, right? You could go in here and put a called number. User defined, I'm going to do another camel casing here. And if you will need to modify this, I can get the called number instead. And so now what I'm doing is as soon as my script starts processing, as soon as it accepts the phone call, I will be able to fill out what your calling and call-id number is. Maybe I take these variables and I push them out to the agent desktop at some point in time, right? So, okay, and then the next thing that I want to do is I want to add a play prompt, right? So I guess I can go to media. And here I can add a play prompt at the very end, because if you take a look at what I want to do, after I get the calling number and all that stuff, I want to play a welcome message here. And so to play a welcome message, I want to put a play prompt inside of my UCCX script. Now, here's the thing that I want to tell you. In your play prompt, there's a bunch of different options here. Interruptible. The first thing that I need to tell you about this is the interruptible here does not mean what you think it means, okay? Because a lot of people, they would think if this is interruptible, that means, yeah, if someone presses a button, that means it's just going to skip the WAV file, right? Incorrect. Interruptible means that this is going to be able to be interrupted by the system, okay? So like, let's say if the system had to send the call somewhere right away because an agent became available, during this WAV file, the system would be able to interrupt this play prompt and send you to that location. That's what that means, okay? So it's not what you think it is. Pressing a button will interrupt this play prompt. That's not what this does. Under the prompt section, that's what barge in means. So if you say barge in yes, that means that whatever WAV file that you place here, when someone presses that button on the dial pad, that will stop the WAV file from playing and then kind of skip it, right? That's what barge in really does. So just know the difference between interruptible and barge in here. Now, here's the idea. You have a prompt. What the heck are you going to do here, Ben? If I can come over here and log into CCX 11.027. And if I want to go over here to applications and I go to prompt management, okay, this is where all my prompt stuff is. And I just want you guys to see something, right? Because a lot of people don't know how prompt management works. So I'm just here to tell you guys that when you're doing prompt management, a lot of the times the directories is going to be defined as, it's going to be defined as P, which is essentially what that means is it means that you're going into the applications and it means that you're going into that prompt directory. You see what I'm highlighting here, right? Now, in addition to that, when you click on the prompt management, that's where we're at right here is prompt management. That P really is the default language within your system. So if you've set the default language for your particular application as English, what you'll see is P in this particular case means English US. If you dialed an application that had Spanish, P in that case would probably mean Spanish if your script was applied to that Spanish application, okay? So that's all P means. P means whatever prompt directory within whatever kind of language was selected by default. So what you'll see here is that P actually is English US here, okay? And so you'll see that there's like a open brackets here. Then, as I click on English US, you'll notice there's a bunch of other stuff here. If you do something like this, that means that you're diving into that PL, I guess like a folder, okay? Or let's say you don't do PL. Let's say you do RP, or you do SS, or you do HD for Helpdesk. Whatever you decide to do here, that will automatically pick and choose from your repository, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and use PL. And then if you click on PL, you'll notice that that PL has a bunch of different greetings here. So if you decide to select PL underscore greeting dot wave, and then after that you close this with the closed brackets, this would refer to this specific file here. You guys see that? So again, a lot of people, they don't know how that works inside of their own UCCX system. And that's why I kind of want to lead you guys through that, because that's one of the biggest things is, where do you play these WAV files? Where are they located? How can I upload them? So you can upload them within prompt management, right? And then you can point within your script exactly where you want this to go. So let's take a listen to what some of these WAV files are. So if I listen to the PL greeting WAV file,
you are using the wrong greeting prompt. Please modify the set step in your script.
Okay, so that's a type of greeting. Let's go over to student 00 and see if I can't play another greeting file.
English, welcome to ACCXL class.
Okay, so let's try to use this particular file here, right? Now, if I want to play prompt, you could essentially go in here and you could play this prompt from PPL, okay, backslash, and then I have, I believe, like student 00, backslash, and then I can paste that file, right, which is going to be right here. Oops. And then I can close that brackets. This would play that exact file that I have there, okay? So you could put the prompt here if you want, okay? Or what I could additionally do is I could say, well, let's not put the prompt there. Let's go ahead and add a new variable. And you can add the prompt in another way. Let's add a prompt in here. And let's do that same thing. For my prompt, I want to name this the greeting message. And notice how it has that PPL thingy. So here I can specify PL backslash student 00 backslash PL underscore greeting wave message. And if you'll notice, I can make this a parameter. Now, here is the question, right? I'm not going to apply this, but if you take a look at this, right? Why did I define this here? Why didn't I just go in here and define this within the prompt? Because I could technically just go ahead and use that variable and it would do the same thing. But why is it that I'm defining it here in the variable and then specifying it here? The reason for that is because when you think about this play prompt, right? If I go over to my application that I'm working with right now, if you take a look at my Helpdesk application, you'll notice that, hey, there's a welcome message here. And you'll notice that if I go into UCCX and notice how I've made this a parameter for this greeting, so like this prompt that I'm specifying here that goes to that prompt repository, I'm making this a parameter. If you make this a variable, what you could do is you're making this selectable inside of your application. So that, you know, if I want to play that message, by all means, play that message. But if you want to have somebody toggle that message and say, you know what, let's just use a different message because I don't want to hear that right now. Maybe I want to hear like a holiday or manually closed message, right? The idea here is that you can dynamically change the way this script works if you define those variables. But if I just went into the play prompt and I said, well, you know what, let's not use that variable, let's just use that PPL thingy, If I just specify that here, you cannot select that then if it's not a variable. So that's why I'm making things a variable, if you will, so that I have additional options to be able to change that without actually having to go into my script. Okay, so that's my play prompt. I want to play it after the get call contact info step. And I'm going to be playing from this particular file here. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're probably going to want to do is we want to be able to play some kind of a menu. So I guess my next step here is to go in here and drag over a menu item. Okay. And I guess when you expand that menu item, notice how you have a couple of different branches here. Now, somebody's going to be able to hear something in this menu step. So let's go back to our UCCX platform, and let's go into prompt management and see if we can't find some type of a help desk script to help us out. So here, notice there is a problem type menu. I'm going to let you guys listen to what it sounds like.
What type of problem are you experiencing? For hardware, press 1. Software, 2. Telecom, 3. Network, 4.
Okay. So you'll notice that HD problem type menu, that's something that I'm probably going to want to have, right? And I'm probably going to want to define that as a variable. So, well, let's not define it as a variable. Let's go ahead and go into the menu item. And I'll show you guys, I don't have to define this. I can just go in here and say, well, that's under P, okay? And it's going to be speaking to, I guess, let me go in and take a peek here at HD, okay? Backslash, and then I can use that, whatever that WAV file is going to be, close my brackets. So again, I'm not going to define this variable here. I'm just going to define this within the menu step, okay? Now, yeah, general, again, interruptible, bars, you guys know what that means now. Now let's go to input. So I'm going to allow you to input this stuff 3 times with a maximum of retries of 3. And then anytime you're flushing in the input buffer, it just means that, you know, any button presses that the user may have pressed, I'm going to flush the input buffer before I, before I go ahead and do this menu item. So I'm going to say yes, because whatever button presses that the customer pressed, I want to be able to flush that so that they have to make a new selection after they hear this WAV file. Okay? Then in filters, here's what you want to do. Notice hardware, software, telecom, and network. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add hardware. I'm going to add software. I'm going to add telecom. And I'm going to add network. Okay? And the idea here is when you guys add these connections, a lot of the times what you have to do is you got to click on your hardware branch, and you need to associate the button press that is going to go with that hardware script. So hardware, press 1. Software, press 2. Telecom, press 3. And then network, press 4. So you'll notice that every time I press one of these branches here, you'll notice that there's a red distinction on what button presses are going to be what I'm expecting, okay? Now, notice what happens when I press this OK button, because notice my menu right now only has timeout and unsuccessful. As soon as I press OK, notice what happens to the number of branches that I have. Oh, wow. So now you have a bunch of different branches that you're going to go off of. Press 1, go here. Press 2, go here. 3 and 4. Then there's a timeout and an unsuccessful branch. Okay. Now, essentially what I'm going to want to do is in the real world, I guess, what I would want to do is I would want to set, if you press hardware, right, I want to be able to send this call to the correct person. So in this particular case, what I want to do here is I want to create a CSQ ID, because at some point in time, what's going to happen is there is going to be a step here that I'm going to use for ACD. ACD stands for, automatic call distribution. You're going to have a select resource step. And in this select resource step, the idea here is I want to target a CS queue or a contact service queue. Typically speaking, what's going to happen is you're going to allocate users to this contact service queue through skills, right? So wherever your users are or whatever your contact service queues are, right? That's where you're going to try to route these calls. So if they wanted a hardware issue, maybe what I want to do here is I want to define kind of like a CSQ, if you will, right? So here I'm going to define a CSQ ID. And I'm going to name this by default CSQ SG00, okay? And that's the CSQ that I have inside of UCCX. So if I go into UCCX, I go to subsystems. If I go into RMCM, which is remote management, call management, and if you look at the contact service queues, again, notice how I have a CSQ SG00. And within the CSQ SG00, if I go over to the next over here, and then I look at my resources, you'll notice that I have agent 00 and I have student 00 as agents that can pick up phone calls from the CSQ. So that's why I need to define that variable here, because at some point in time, you're going to send stuff somewhere. Okay, now, what I'm going to show you is that for right here, what I might want to do is I might want to say, well, I want to set the CSQ ID, if you selected hardware, to become CSQ hardware. Does that make sense? Because you selected hardware, you should be able to go to your hardware people. Or, you know, if you do this, I'm going to copy this because I'm going to cheat a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to paste a bunch of those things here. And just for the sake of time, you can see that all of these things are hardware, but you know, you would probably want to change this so that this is going to go to software, a different set of people, right? If they ever selected that. So I'm going to select these different CSQs here, okay, depending on whatever your button presses are going to be. Now, at the end of the day, okay, folks, just know that in UCCX right now, you guys just barely saw, I only have one contact service queue. So like hardware, software, telecom, network, that's not going to work ever because I don't have those CSQs here, okay? So technically, you could do that in real life, but for us, we're actually going to just make this CSQ SG00, okay? Just so that you guys can see that, you know, just when I'm testing this stuff, that's what it's going to be. Alrighty? But in the real world, yeah, you can direct this to any kind of CSQs that you guys have created, no problems. We're just going to be able to select hardware here in this example. Okay? Now, here's another thing. Because you created that CSQ ID, which is important to have, you must also create, inside of automatic call distribution, you also have to create a user type of variable, and this would be your resource ID. This user is what's going to be selected from your select resources step. So if I open up that select resources step, okay, you'll notice that the contact here, what's going to initiate the step is a called user inside of your application. I'm going to route this based on two different options here. You can route this via contact service queue, which 9 times out of 10, this is what you're going to choose, versus resource. A resource-based routing means I'm going to route this to an agent, and that's it. But typically in UCCX environments, you're not ever routing to a specific resource. You're going to route to a group of resources. So that's why most of the time we're going to select from a contact service queue. Okay? Now, you'll notice CSQ target ID. Here, they're going to specify what CSQ that you want. Now, what CSQ do I want to specify? Well, I want to specify the CSQ SG00. So I'm going to select from the CSQ ID from my dropdown. Okay? And again, even if you didn't have this filled out, let's say this was blank. Okay? So if this was blank, and then you take a look at this over here, notice the menu item. Even if that was blank, as soon as somebody presses 1 for hardware, what's going to happen? It's going to go to the hardware branch, And then it's going to be able to set that CSQ ID to CSQ SG00 automatically for me here. You guys see that? So that's the thing to know about that CSQ ID is based on the menu button presses, it's going to dynamically fill out that variable so that I can reference it later on. Okay. Now there is this question as far as, okay, Ben, well, Ben, if you're going to connect, there's yes, and then there's connect, there's no. Intuitively, most people will say, yeah, let's connect this and we'll be on our way. Okay, but I'll tell you that most of the time that's not what you want to do. So like, for instance, if you want to, you know, before you connect somebody to an agent, do you guys want to play like a message like, please wait while we connect your call. All calls will be recorded, for quality assurance or whatever. Or if you want to push data out to your agent desktop so that people can, your agents will know who's calling, what's the reason why they called, what they pressed for their menu item, things like that, right? Then you may want to say connect no so that you can give the system some time so that you can play messages and or push stuff out to the agent desktop beforehand. So I like to say no here most of the time. And then notice the resource selected here. What I'm going to select is a resource ID. Notice that was going to be a type that I had to generate as a user type field. Notice how this is null because when our CSQ target is going to be the CSQ of SG00, it will automatically select from one of our ready resources if available. Okay. So I know it's kind of weird there and I know it's null, but when I debug this so that you guys can see this in action, again, you guys will, hopefully this will make some sense. Okay. Now, here's the thing about the select resource step. What if I wanted to play something? Remember, maybe I want to do something before actually connecting this phone call. This is the way to do it. So under the selected, this means that, hey, there is an agent available. It's going to ring the agent. But before I do that, I want to play a play prompt, right? And if I go back to UCCX and I go to my prompt management, maybe I want to play like a quality assurance kind of thing. So let's see if we can find something like that. Right here.
Please wait while we transfer your call.
So you'll notice that please wait, maybe that's what I want to play before it actually connects to my agent, right? So what I can do here, I can go to the play prompt. And again, I can specify my prompt here, or I can specify the prompt from a variable. Let's practice doing that from a variable. I'm going to select this as a prompt type. I'm going to say this is going to be the please wait message. And here I'm going to specify this to be inside of the HD dash or backslash, and then the please wait wave file, and then close the bracket. Okay, so this will then play from the HD please wait dot wave. Okay, and if I do that, I can open up the play prompt and I can just simply select the please wait message. Okay, so cool. I'm going to be playing that message. Great. What else do you want to do? Well, if that's all that you want to do, that's fine, right? To be able to connect the call, I guess what I'd have to do here is I'd have to go in here and drag from the ACD section, drag that connect step down here to that underneath the play prompt, right? And then if you'll notice this branch connection, if I double click on it, you'll notice the resource selected here. I'm just going to select the resource ID. Notice the timeout here is the ring no answer or version timeout. This will ring the agent for 10 seconds. If they pick up, great. If they don't pick up, put them back into queue. Okay, so the next agent can pick up. So that's what that timeout is. Okay. And really that's all that we really need to do right now. If it gets connected, it will automatically connect here. But notice what happens if it's failed. Like what happens during that ring no answer, right? I mean, it's not going to hit here, so what are you going to do here? Well, I can always send you somewhere else within the script. So in this particular case, if I wanted to make some kind of a routing decision, let's do these label steps real quick. I'm going to add a couple labels here, and I want you guys to see what my labels ultimately look like, right? So here, maybe I have this being a menu. And maybe this is going to be a select resource. Okay. Now, what I think of labels in this product is I think of labels as kind of like a bookmark, right? So like when you read a book, there's essentially bookmarks that you guys have all the time, right? And what you can do with these bookmarks is you can always jump to those pages. That's kind of what a label is inside of this UCCX script. It's a way for us to jump to those sections. So for instance, the way that I can make some decisions is I can go and I can grab this go-to step and I can say, well, underneath the failed option, if they didn't pick up in time, what do I want to do? Well, I want to send this back to the select resource step. So essentially what that's going to do is that will send you back over here to this particular step to keep on processing the system. Okay. Same thing with menu items, right? So if I have a menu item and I wanted to, you know, if you timed out, well, the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to time out. I'm going to send this back to the menu item. And you know what? You can copy this and you can do the same thing for the unsuccessful one. So notice that for unsuccessful, you know, selection, if they didn't select something correctly, like let's say they press 5, because you can only press 1, 2, 3, 4. If they press 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or 0, that's unsuccessful. It's going to bring them back to that menu item. Okay, so replay this menu item, make them reselect this stuff again. Okay. So yeah, there's definitely that. And we can also make decisions like loop counters and things like that too, but I don't know if we have time to talk about that, so I'm just going to keep going. Okay, folks. The next thing that I want to talk about here is let's talk about the queue. Okay, because the queue is the next important thing. If you go to select resources step, and let's say you don't get selected because there's not an available agent. Well, obviously what's going to happen then is you're going to go to this queue section. So within this queue, what I probably want to do is add a label here because I want to make some decisions, right? I want to be able to loop this back over if they didn't get queued properly, right? So I'm going to put a label step for a bookmark. And then maybe I want to put another play step. So if you are being queued up, I want you to know that you're being queued up. And you'll notice that this play prompt here, maybe I want to play something like, where's a queue message? Let's see what this guy is.
Thanks for calling. The system will attempt to call you back within the next hour.
Hold on, that doesn't look right. Let's go back to the last page. Agents unavailable. I like that one. Let's hear this real quick.
All of our support agents are busy with other callers. Your call will be handled in the order it was received, so please hold on.
Okay, that sounds like a good queuing message. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this WAV file, okay, and I'm going to create a variable from it. So I'm going to go down here, create another prompt variable, and then I'm going to have agents unavailable message. And here I know that that's coming from HD / HD agents unavailable.wave, and then I'm going to close that bracket, and then I can select that from the dropdown. So if I select agents unavailable message, it should be able to initiate that play prompt there. Okay. And then what else do I want to do? Well, I want to play that prompt, and then I essentially want to play music on hold after that, right? So the way that we can kind of do this is we can drag a call hold step within the call contact. And notice there's no configuration here. It just says that it's going to hold the call on the triggering contact. And then here's the trick. You have to put a delay step underneath that call hold step. right? And then that delay step is going to be for however many seconds you want this delay to be. So if you want this play prompt to play for 5 minutes, you're going to put 5 minutes in seconds here. Okay, now I'm only going to do it for 10 seconds just for testing purposes. But yeah, I'm going to delay for 10 seconds. That means that the system's going to play music on hold from call manager for 10 seconds. Make sure that this is interruptible. If you say no, here's what's going to happen. If this is 10 seconds, they're going to hear hold music for 10 seconds. Even if an agent becomes available, it's not going to take you from queue. It's going to still play that hold music until this delay step is finished. When you make this delay step interruptible, it says that if an agent becomes available, let's interrupt this delay step so they don't hear music on hold anymore. They automatically get placed into the selected branch here. So you want to make most things interruptible by the system. Okay? And, if, at some point in time, you got to unhold the call. So we're going to drag a call unhold step here. And then let's make some other decisions here. Let's actually send a go to step and send this to our queue. Right? So in this particular case, if you are held for 10 seconds and then you need to go to the queue loop, that will send you back to the queue loop here to send you back to that bookmark. Okay? And, I think that's okay for right now. So let's go ahead and try to validate this. I'll upload it and then we'll debug, because that's the most important part of all this, is debugging this stuff, right? So the validation was successful. It looks like I got all the pieces that I needed in here. Let's go ahead and save as, and I'm going to save this as let's call this Helpdesk 1, okay? And what I want to do is I want to go into my script management inside of UCCX, and I want to upload this script that I just created. So here I have a Helpdesk 1 script. Now we can see the Helpdesk 1 script right here, but it may not be allocated to any particular place. So what I want to do is I want to go up to one of my applications that have been pre-configured, and I want to go to my Helpdesk script that I've created. And you'll notice for my Helpdesk script, if I dial 1000, that's my trigger, right? So if anybody dials 1000 from call manager, it will hit this application right here. But what I want to do here is I want to assign that Helpdesk script that I just created with you guys. And you'll notice what I did here is once I've updated it, notice how it has that greeting message. Notice how that's the check mark. Because if I ever wanted to dynamically change what gets played for the opening greeting, I could change it right here if I wanted to. Just select it and then change whatever greeting you want it to be. Okay? The only thing that you guys have to take note of is you have to make it a parameter. So you need to check mark that variable in order to dynamically change that prompt. Okay? So that's kind of what that looks like. Hey, if you wanted to change like the menu item, or if you wanted to change like any other kind of play prompts, just make it a parameter and it would automatically make it a check mark on your applications page. Okay? So let's update this. And what I want to do is I want to show you guys how this is going to work for us. So I'm going to open up a couple phones here. And in my script editor, what I want to do is once you upload a script, if you want to see how a script truly works, you need to be able to debug this script. So notice what I do here is I'm going to go to debug. I'm going to click on reactive script. And for my reactive script, I'm going to select the Helpdesk 1 that I uploaded to the system. And I'm going to give the system at least 30 seconds, at least for me to call my application to initiate this script. So notice because I selected 30, notice that countdown, 27, 26. And what you want to do is you want to be able to call your Helpdesk script within that 30 seconds. Okay, notice 18, 17. As soon as I dial, so here's how you want to test this. Ooh, did that work? Okay, let me try that again, folks. Sometimes this stuff has errors when you try to debug it, but that's okay, that's common. So Helpdesk 1, let's choose 30 seconds. And then here, what I want to do here is I want to dial that 1000 number. Notice what happens here. I'm going to step over. So what happens is the system allows the user time to kind of debug and see what script steps are doing which, right? Now we hear that annoying ring because I've not yet accepted this call. As soon as I step over, it will stop the ring from happening. Because at this point in time, I stepped over that accept step, and now it's as if the system has accepted this phone call. It picked up. You see what I'm saying? So this is the way that you're going to want to test your scripts out so that you can logically follow what the script is doing. Okay? So you'll notice I'm still on the phone, but it's right here though. And notice what happens here, right? I'm on the get call contact info step. It's not going to populate anything yet, but notice in that call contact info step, what am I doing? I want to populate calling number and call-in number for my variables here. If you take a look at my calling number and call-in numbers, they don't have anything. But as soon as I step over, you see that 1000 and a 1337 here, okay? And then I'm going to step over one more time. Let's hear
English. Welcome to UCCX class.
Okay. So notice that play prompt played the greeting message. That greeting message was right here, and it played that particular prompt, right? Notice we did some other stuff. Before I get here, we're on the menu label here, but let me open up that menu item so that you guys can see. Notice that menu prompt that we have. We manually defined this. We didn't define this within a variable on the bottom left. So here we manually defined this, and that's fine. When we step over, we should be able to hear the menu prompt. Right, so stepping over now.
What type of problem are you experiencing? For hardware, press 1. Software, 2. Telecom, 3. Network, 4.
So when I press 1, notice what happened, right? In the menu item, when I press 1, it went down to hardware. And then you'll notice what else happens. Because I'm in the hardware branch, I'm in the set step. Notice what happens to my CSQ ID right here. Remember, this is how we're going to drive call routing to our agents. So as soon as I step over this set step, it has set the CSQ to SG00, which back in UCCX, we can see that in remote management, call management, that is now going to select all agents within the CSQ SG00 here, okay? Now again, in the real life, I guess you might have something like set the CSQ ID to hardware and software and telecom and network, because these might go to different teams of agents that you will have created, okay? So that's kind of the idea here. So yeah, let's go back through here. We're not going to show you the looping because I think you guys understand the looping logic, but let's go down to where we're at here, select resources. So once I go to select resources, you'll notice inside of the select resource step, it knows to query from that CSQ ID of CSQ SG00, okay? And then it also knows the resource selected here is going to be from the resource ID, which is just going to be my user from the CSQ, okay? So let's step over and see what happens here. You'll notice that it skipped from here. It didn't hit anything here at all, right? It just basically skipped all this stuff. So what the heck? That's because an agent wasn't available. So I went directly to the queue. Let's see what happens within the queue, right? So I'm going to step over. It's going to play the message that, you know, agents are unavailable.
All of our support agents are busy with other callers. Your call will be handled in the order it was received, so please hold on.
Okay, and then as soon as the call holds, I'll be able to hear Cisco's hold music. You guys hear that? Yes? Okay. This will happen for 10 seconds, folks. At least I hope. So 10 seconds has elapsed. Now I'm back to the call unhold step. If I step over this, you'll notice that once the call gets unheld, They don't hear the music on hold anymore. But if an agent's not available, I still want to go through the queue loop. So again, it's going to keep going through
All
the
of our
queue loop.
support agents are busy with other callers. Your call will be handled in the order it was received, so please hold on.
So here's what I want to show you guys. But remember, all of these steps here are interruptible, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually log into Finesse so I can take a phone call. So I want to log in as agent 00. And this is going to be my agent phone over here, okay? Now notice what happens. As soon as I go into the ready state, my script is going to understand, oh, hey, this is no longer a thing. Now it's going to be in the selected branch, and it will do that automatically. So as soon as I go ready, you'll notice that inside of this thing here in my script, you see how it automatically knew that there was an available agent, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to play the prompt.
Please wait while we transfer your call.
And then I'm going to try to connect to that resource here, okay? So in this particular case, if the agent answers the phone, just so you guys, but just so you guys can see that, right? Well, as soon as I got that, it automatically connected my phone call. As soon as I terminate the phone call, it automatically terminates the call here and then ends configuration. Okay. Did that make sense? Was that helpful, folks? Okay. Any questions for me? And again, we're on, I guess, Q&A time now. I can take any questions you guys want. If you guys have any general questions, how things work with the UCCX, I don't mind answering them. Or if you want to see more with like how we make decisions or how we do loop counters, I can also configure that too. Let me know what you guys want to see. Otherwise, I guess that's it for this Tech Talk session, folks. But yeah, I'll stick around for any questions you guys might have with UCCX. So. Mohammed, what do you mean by switching, sir? Oh, and by the way, if anybody wants this Helpdesk script to kind of help you guys out, send me the email inside of chat, and then I'll load up this script and I'll email it to you at some point today, okay? Oh, you want to look at the switch option, Mohammed? For sure. Are you using the switch option currently? Or do you have any specific questions on why you should use a switch option? We can kind of demo something here if you want. So, and I don't know if you want to go off mic, that might be a little bit easier to explain what you want to see on switch option. All right, let me just talk about the switch option for you then. Here's the idea, I guess, is if I put the switch option inside of my UCCX script, the idea here is that this is a case statement, right? The idea with the switch option is that it's kind of like a Boolean. So I can put some kind of a equation here for the switch option. So maybe if contact center is enabled, or if English is the primary language, or if Spanish is the primary language. You can make your case statement here, and then based on those case statements within your switch option, I can play different things. I can have the user experience different items. So what I can do here is I can say, let's do this real quick, okay? Let's create a string type variable. Let's make it a parameter. And let's make this CC status. Okay. And let's go ahead and make this actually, let's just go ahead and make this a Boolean statement. So where's Boolean? Okay. So what I want to do here is I created a variable here known as contact center status. And I'm going to make this true or false, okay, just so that you guys can see this. And what I want to do is I want to probably go over and put this switch statement right before the play prompt, okay? Now, what I may want to do is I may want to go in here and put the switch value. And for the switch value, I want to go ahead and say, let's use contact center status. And let's make sure that this is going to be equal to true. Oops. I may have to create this as a string variable, not a Boolean, excuse me. And let's make this closed. Okay. So what's going to happen here is, and actually, you know what? I don't even want to make this closed, but I want to make this kind of like nothing so that I can define this since it's going to be a parameter. Now, for the switch statement, the idea here is I can specify my CC status, and then based on my contact center status, if that value happened to be, let's say, closed, okay, what I could do is I can open the connection to be closed, okay? And I guess what I would want to do here is I would have to create a, let's see. Let's go ahead and create like a, it's not a short. Let's see if I have to do that. Switch, CC status. I want to add the value here. And let's just do, I think I have to define an integer maybe. CC integer. And let's make this a parameter 1. Okay. And in my switch step, what I could do is, let's see if this works. Value. Anyway, well, with the switch step, if we can do this, I guess the switch statement would then have the value be, it would just be a case statement where I can define kind of like the different connections. And then based on that connection value, I don't know why I can't modify it yet, but based on those, I can create different kind of menu items, kind of like how you're seeing here within the menu. And then based on that, I can play different prompts based on the different kind of branches that I've created here. But I'm not sure why I can't modify that here. 1, that's going to be open. Does that work? Oh yeah, that works. So that's open. And then CC integer, this would be 2. And that connection could be closed, right? And I guess the ID here would be, depending on my switch integer here, let's make this my one because I didn't like my string variable. Let's delete this guy. And in the open time schedule, I guess I can drag that play prompt open to the open play prompt. But then in the close schedule, what I can see here is I could probably add another play prompt in there. And let's create another prompt here. And let's make this a closed message. And in this particular case, I'd go into my prompt management and I need to find my closed wave file. So closed message is right here.
There are no agents available to take your call. Please call back during normal business hours between 8 a.m.
Okay, so that sounds good. So let's take that closed message and let's put that right here, shall we? So this is going to be HD closed message wave /. And then what I can do here is I can play the closed message here. Closed. Oh, right there. Okay. And so you'll notice the switch option here, again, when we look at this configuration, right? Value of 1 or 2. 1 means open, 2 means close. And so if you take a look at this, right, I have a value of 1 here. I could make this a value of 2, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to save this. Let's name this with a switch step. And let me upload this into UCCX script repository. And I can go back over to my applications page. Then inside of my help desk, I can specify what I want my script to be. So in this case, helpdesk 1 switch. And you'll notice the CC integer here. Notice how 1 equals open. But if I want this to be closed, I guess I can make this 2. Or I could specify close, whatever you want to do here, right? So let's make this closed. And if I take a look at my script, remember, 1 plays the opening greeting, 2 plays the closed greeting. So let's try to see if this works.
There are no agents available to take your call. Please call back during normal business hours between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at 8 a.m.
You see that? Now, if I go back to that prompt and let's say I change this to 1. So this is going to be an open script, right? I'm going to refresh this. And because I changed the integer here for the switch step, I can essentially make that call again.
English, welcome to ACCXL class. What type of problem are you experiencing? For hardware, press 1.
You see that?
Please wait while we transfer your call.
So we are getting different interactions based on this switch step, right? Again, it's just a case statement where you can have different branches and then you can have different interactions within those branches, right? Different play prompts, different menu items, check different things, make different types of decisions. And this can be toggleable if you make it a variable, like kind of like, or a parameter, like how I did it, right? So I like to use switch steps for things like, you know, manually opening or manually closing a contact center. But you can use switch statements for a lot of different cases too, if you program them inside of your script. So I hope that kind of helps out. Did that make sense at all, Mohammed? Okay, very cool, sir.